Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course from New Earth One Network. This is designed exclusively for your higher self connection and embodiment. Welcome to this Mastery Empowerment course, an introduction course with Jean Ang of the Arcturian Healing Frequencies. This is a significant transmission. It is called the Arcturian Galactic Center Transmissions. Let's welcome Jean Ang, who's going to share, the importance and the magnitude of the opportunity here.
All right. Oh, great. Yes, thanks. Thanks for the introduction, and great to be here with everyone. Thanks for joining us. And I enjoy these pre-courses. It's almost like a fourth session or the first session, because so much gets downloaded during this time. So look forward to talking about the Arcturian Galactic Center transmissions.
With these sessions, here we are in this beautiful gateway. There is a solar eclipse that we're going into that actually comes from the 1111 gateway and the lunar eclipse that was on the 19th of November. So this solar eclipse on December 3rd will have the energy in this recording and also these transmissions. And isn't it significant that we're coming into the December 21st solstice, that is the end cap to the 1111 gateway, and opening to 2022, these divine feminine frequencies? It's as if this I am presence transmissions is really a great opportunity right now for each of us.
Yeah, I love how you encapsulated that, and I think, like you said, in just now, and also sort of every month of December or every year in December is quite a special time galactically or celestially for our planet, as most people in different traditions, exoteric traditions as well as esoteric ones, are celebrating some type of spiritual festival, whether it's Kwanzaa or Hanukkah or Christmas, for example. But like you mentioned, in terms of the star alignments and celestial alignments, the winter's beginning like December 1st, there's already what's called the St. John's initiate kind of initiation, which is the eagle initiate in the esoteric Christian tradition. And St. John was the initiate who could kind of see time from a sort of a very broad view, almost galactically or geometrically, sort of as if, and that's why he's called the eagle initiate. So he sort of looks over time from a very high view, so that it almost looks like a geometry or a shape rather than how we might experience it linearly. But that kicks off, like you said, this kind of very important time, and leading up to the winter solstice, where our Earth, our sun, and the center of our particular galaxy are coming more and more into alignment. So these transmissions with the Arcturians is to take advantage of these celestial information and energy that's hitting the planet, and we're all affected by it. The question more is how conscious we can become of that energy and information, and therefore we can accelerate our development by unpacking that in a conscious manner. So all the different events that people are probably going to be involved with this month, including these transmissions, is a way to assist that process.
As we're talking about how conscious we can become in these gateways. What are we paying attention to? Is this the inner voice, intuition, miracles, things like this?
Yes, I love how you use that word, pay attention. I think that's really the kind of the key focus is just really being present with what's happening in our life, particularly when we're aligned with that intention to see more of, you could call it our higher self, or in the write-up that I about the galactic transmissions, I called it the I am presence, I think, which people are very familiar with. And as we're more aware of what's happening, we begin to notice, and we've been discussing this in the other um, mastery empowerment courses, for example, the last one on the good luck transmissions, where just by writing things down, in that context, it was like what we would call good luck or very positive events. Or here, you may be paying attention to what we might see as our higher selves voice or message, which can come through other people, the internet, through license plates, or even more sort of what we would classify as major events. Although all the events are equal in from the spirit point of view, as we pay more attention to that, we actually bring that into reality. So yeah, that's the first and primary thing, is just to pay attention or be aware of how our higher self is always speaking to us.
Here, the celestial event is bringing through information and an amplification of galactic center light. And we're going to be working with these. I love how you say the I am presence. Again, I like to use higher self. We know it as that. And the way that we tune into this presence, this is how we shift our earth. And in my opinion, it's the most important thing that we can do. And I would say that those watching and listening know that this is why they incarnated, is to build this connection even stronger and really embody it. So these transmissions, we're going to experience a frequency with you. I first want to have you talk more about what we can expect in each of these sessions.
Oh yeah. Yes, just it's kind of built on threes, the number three. So first is about the center. The center of any circle is a gateway beyond space-time into the divine. So in many respects, we're a sphere ourselves. The Earth is a sphere, so we're connecting to the Earth as a center, and then we're connecting also with the Sun, which is a sphere. So that center, which is another gateway. The earth, of course, is a spiritual being that many people connect with to as a spiritual being. You could call it Pachamama or the Divine Sophia. And then the sun is also a spiritual being that many esoteric spiritual traditions see as a very powerful being who may be a blueprint for our divine sort of plan or divine human, all the way starting from ancient Egypt in terms of the sun god Ra, or now in a more kind of modern times, the Christ consciousness is considered the spirit of the sun. And Ahura Mazda was the name that was used in ancient Persia for the same being. And then finally, this is also, as I mentioned, a great time that we can start to tune in or go into resonance with our galactic center. Of course, people could do that at any time, but because of the alignment, that's another very powerful center that's even, you could even say on a cosmic level, even stronger or has more depth of information that we can download. And even just by thinking about the galactic center, we already come into resonance with that information field. So that's the first three levels that these transmissions embody. And then the next three levels is how do we bring through or crystallize what's called the I am presence or our higher self. And I broke those up into the three sessions that we're going to be doing, or the receiving the transmissions for. One is called the personal level. The next is the transpersonal level. And the third is the divine union level. And so just briefly, the personal level is like developing ourselves as individuals. So how does our I am presence come through on the individual level. And we can think of this as many of our courses and that we did embody some of what this level is about. It's sort of making ourselves better instruments. I think of Stephen Covey's I think it was the 7 habits of highly successful people. So we just become sharper saws, as he was saying, or we sharpen the saw so that we may manifest better, we may bring through light better, we may be better healers, better speakers, better teachers, better parents. So these are all individual qualities, you could say almost like a peak performance level, which we've had some courses on before, and all coming from the divine or our I am blueprint. And then the next level is the transpersonal level, and all these levels are not separate. They could be seen as hierarchical, or you're kind of moving forward, but I see them more as being embodied or being simultaneous, which I think is maybe a more dynamic way to look at them, so that one's not necessarily letting go of those qualities. And that seems to be more intuitively probably what people feel. And I'll get back to that idea that it's more all three are happening at once. But the next level, the transpersonal, which many people probably also tuned into or thought about, is how can my personality self step aside so that the divine can work through me as a vehicle. Or I put there in the write up, many people who've worked in healing have heard the term hollow bone, which actually comes from the Native American culture. As a shaman, one might be the hollow bone to allow the divine to flow through them. And this usually embodies this transpersonal idea. So something greater than the personality is working through the personality, so trans personal. And there's some statements that I put in that kind of come from the esoteric Christian tradition that are normally used to embody these levels. Just to step back again, the personal level was the statement, "I am the light of the world." So one's kind of radiating that divine light as an individual. And then this transpersonal statement or mantra is, "Not I, but the Christ in me," which many people who may have studied those phrases or kind of aligned to the Christ consciousness may have heard. So you're sort of letting some higher being work through you, or some representation of the divine. It doesn't have to be the Christ. If someone connects more with another higher being, such as Tara or Mother Mary, or some other form or symbol of the divine, but it works through them. And there can be multiple beings or representations that we work with that allow that to come through. And then finally, the third session, just to finish this off, is the unified situation where our I am presence merges with the divine. I call that the divine union level. So at some point, we also feel that we've lost our sense of an individual self, that we then become unified in a non-dual way with pure awareness or God, source, love, either Father God or Mother God or both. And that's also a state of consciousness that many people are developing. We call it awakening and stabilizing now on our planet. And so all three of these levels are something we can work on or embody simultaneously.
So when we are asking how our personality can step aside to become that hollow bone, it really is tuning into the heart center, right? And how do you distinguish the personality from the ego? Are they the same or a little different?
Mhm. Yes, the individual level, you could say, in contrast to the I am presence coming through the personality, the other possibility is that we're building from a more self-centered sort of, the personality becomes the end all and the be all. So maybe we're developing, let's say, our intelligence to a very high level so that we can become more powerful as a personality, maybe acquire more material things, more emotional energy, but it's really centered on the personality. That would be the contrast of, let's say, working from the ego with a small e. Whereas the personal level of the I am presence is you're letting your divine light come through, and you would still you could still develop all those skills or abilities through this vehicle that we may call this ego with a small e, that has an energy body, that has an emotional body, and a mental body. But you're utilizing those in kind of in as a gift for the divine to work through you in that way. So it's both developing specific individual qualities, but then allowing that to the divine blueprint to work through that.
The divine blueprint. And we have been working with this in many of your courses, but this is our blueprint. This is the greatest version of ourselves in the universe, in the cosmos, the multiverse. And so we will be crystallizing the divine blueprint of the I am presence. Can you talk more about what we do there and how this occurs?
Yes, yes. I think the stages are very helpful, particularly if we look at our own life cycle, or if you have if anyone's ever worked with children or have children, you can see that in some ways we also needed somewhat we would call ego strength, I guess psychologically, with a small e, meaning you kind of can live on your own. You can hold down a job. You can get around places, maybe how to drive or take the bus, or these are like things like that are the ego. And you can work with a small e. You can work with people. You can navigate relationships. These are all things that are needed necessarily. So if you jumped, let's say, in stark contrast to the divine union level, this is almost where you're always in a unified bliss consciousness, unified with the one. But sometimes if you're in that state, you may not be able to actually function as well here, sort of in this physical dimension. So if you haven't crystallized that personality self. So that's why that personal stage is, I would say, in some ways, just as important as the divine union stage to be effective or helpful to other sentient beings. Because from the divine union stage, that would be great. Maybe that's an endpoint that humanity's working towards, but we still are finding ourselves in this physical dimension. And so to be of greatest service, we sort of have to have a structure that allows the divine to flow through. And so building that structure, which maybe happened in our first couple decades, was important work, and wasn't necessarily something to be denied or to let go of or to be repressed. So that's a little bit more about the personal stage of the I am presence. But the transpersonal step is usually where a lot of people, I think, are working with. Let's say if one's a healer, one may develop healing skills, healing abilities, and then there's a lot of healing styles where you sort of step aside and allow something greater to come through you in your healing. So a lot of that is letting go. It's paradoxical of the things that you developed in the personal stage, or at least letting them become secondary so that you can either hear something greater or allow something greater to work through you. So that's usually the process that one goes through.
Yes, at this time with amplified light. So, how would people work with these? We're going to do a short transmission with you, but do you want to share more on ways that someone who's developing their healing skills can work with these, or people in general just including these frequencies in their life?
Yeah, I think one of the things to highlight is the fact that the Galactic Center is very available now in this month, or as a chance to connect to that information field, which is like our sun, our planet is just one of maybe trillions of planets or sun just in our galaxy. So to connect with the Galactic Center as an information field is quite vast and powerful in terms of how we're developing in a larger cycle of time or cycle of space. So we may see ourselves personally, as this individual vehicle, and then transpersonally, we're connecting with something like greater than ourselves. But then even within the context of just our galaxy, and then there's trillions of galaxies beyond that, there's even probably a greater energy or impulse that's moving everything together as if it's coordinated. And we can just look at like how the sun rises every day, this metaphoric or literal. So there's some intelligence to, you know, how the planets are moving, how the sun is always rising. But if you take that to even a galactic level, there must be an intelligence moving everything on that level too, that we're a part of. And it's usually our identification just with this physical body and personality that doesn't necessarily allow us to see or experience directly that sort of greater flow that's working on a cosmic level. So by connecting to the galactic center, a lot of that information kind of busts us out of only an identification with our physical vehicle, and which many people have been working on. I know we've been working on that with the Master Empowerment classes, but this idea of our existence on multidimensional levels simultaneously. So we're actually functioning right now on those other levels. But again, like you were mentioning before, the theme, how aware are we, working like in the astral world? Many people, like we were talking about, have dreams that we're meeting like together. And so this is already our conscious awareness that some aspect of ourselves is actually functioning on another level that's far beyond what we kind of perceive of ourselves now in the physical. So we actually, can be more aware of ourselves, maybe even other dimensions, other universes, other planes of reality right now functioning. And that's what the Galactic Center information can allow us to do, or to have that kind of awareness. And the Galactic Center can be seen as a spiritual being, much like we see the sun as a spiritual being, or the Christ consciousness. And so wisdom can be drawn in various ways, like you said, through meditation, with that with the Galactic Center as a spiritual being. If people work that way, they might have a shamanic model in their practice, or just work with all aspects of the universe as spiritual consciousness, or some type of consciousness, just like we might work with a tree in our backyard as a spiritual being. You could work with the Galactic Center as a spiritual being who can impart wisdom and frequencies and energies that can assist us definitely in this multidimensional consciousness. And that might be quite helpful, like you said, as we move into the new earth, or this new period where we're receiving information from a lot of higher sources, and the Galactic Center being a very large but intimate source, since we are part of this particular sector, or part of this galaxy.
Let's experience a transmission with you, maybe something to tune into the Galactic Center. Or,
Yeah,
okay,
that's what I
wonderful.
was thinking. Yeah, a lot of people may, like I said, this idea of resonance, just even by us discussing the Galactic Center, people might already have tuned in, or we may have already felt that energy coming in, energy and information. You can even on the internet, or yes, NASA has already, and other space agencies have already taken a picture of a physical picture, which is amazing to have. Thinking that 100 years ago we wouldn't have had that piece of evidence, where you can use that, to connect, just like you would use like these backgrounds we have of I have Mount Shasta back here in the background. You could just use a picture of Mount Shasta to connect with that information field, the same way you might find a picture of the Galactic Center. But it's so vast, it's such a strong energy, that the suggestion is that you usually ask other beings who you may to mediate the energy. So if you're working with certain angelic beings, like your holy guardian angel, it could be your higher self, could be your I am presence, could be Archangel Michael, or any of the archangels. In this case, we're having the Arcturians assist us. So they act a little bit like a filter or balancing. It's a bit like, connecting with a huge tsunami wave. And sometimes you need like to be in a boat, or I'm not sure with a tsunami wave, but like a really big wave, 100-foot wave. Although there's some surfers who can do that. you may want to be in a boat to be able to navigate that energy. It's so strong. It's a similar metaphor, like the galactic center is such a strong energy that it's good to have another higher being who can kind of balance the energy as it comes through your system. So that's what the Arcturians will be doing here for us. And you can invoke or if you feel closer to another being. And we'll also let the spiritual being of the galactic center facilitate whatever energy and information could be helpful for people now who are listening or to this and this portion of the video. Yes, whatever will be helpful for both your personal life, your transpersonal life, as well as and also your divine union level life. Okay, so we're starting the working with the galactic center as a spiritual being and receiving its energy and information that would be helpful for us right now. For anyone watching this video. And the Arcturians are also here to help balance or facilitate these strong energies and information so that it's digestible to our system. So we're starting with the first wave or cycle of the galactic center transmission. People may feel a tingling in their crown or in their pillar or some part of their body, or even see certain lights or colors or images, or hear even inner tones. Now we're facilitating the second wave from the galactic center as a spiritual consciousness or being. And if you tune in with your energy ears, you actually may hear an inner tone. You can just listen for whatever you perceive, the inner sound of the galaxy or universe. Now we're entering the third and final galactic wave. Again, we're in deep resonance with the galactic center, filtered by the Arcturians to help make it digestible and safe. And here you might also receive intuitions or messages about how this can benefit you on all three levels, on the practical personal level, on the transpersonal level, and also on the unified or divine union level. You can always come back and connect with the spiritual consciousness of the Galactic Center to learn more or receive more. Because again, we're intimately connected with the evolution of the galaxy. So it has us in its best interests. Yes, that completes the transmission. You can just open your eyes when you feel comfortable and snap your fingers.
That is so beautiful. And truly, we can see when we do that, when we accept that transmission and journey in consciousness in that way, make that connection, that we have the wisdom within us, that it's a beautiful connection. It is the way the universe moves. Really interesting for me when we first, I'd love to share my story. I know it's different for everyone. In the first wave, it was very pulsive, like pulsating light, more than just a heartbeat or a breath of the universe. And then I realized that is the Arcturians or my guides using that filter, giving me what I need. It was almost like a jump start into resonating with that energy. Isn't that interesting? And then the second wave was really just the opposite. It was slowed down, and I saw the spiral of the cosmos, of evolution, and how we create with that. And it's such a peaceful experience by the third wave that we truly hope those who are resonating with this really behold this and work with these energies in this way. It's really exquisite. Thank you for that, Jean.
Oh yeah, thanks for sharing that. And yeah, I was recalling some significant sightings that I've had of the interdimensional ships, physical sightings. Like one in particular, when you're describing that in Pennsylvania, it was with a group that had done a lot of contact work, but it was in like the middle of a suburb, I think, and you wouldn't expect it, but a huge, just out of nowhere, like a completely dark, a huge light appeared over that house as we were like looking, waiting for them, and just like did a big power up, and everyone saw it like that was outside, and then it just powered down. So I think like when we kind of connect to what I call these uh, galactic power spots, just like we might go to Egypt or England or wherever we may go to those lands to connect. We can also connect to these celestial or galactic power spots, and just with our consciousness, and receive the same amount of information and energy, and they're filled with beings. And now more and more people around the world are having these sightings from the interdimensional beings. So I think this is all assisting us in our shift of consciousness.
Very cool. Very, very cool. Well, we look forward to joining you, and we invite all of those watching and listening to join us and take part. It's always really special in our time together, whether you're joining us live or even in the recordings. Each of those recordings have extractions of the energy session, so folks can go back and enjoy those again and continue to work with them. It would be wonderful to include some extra bonus in this one.
Maybe the portals, the Arcturian portals. Or did we have one on the portals? And that might be very helpful because like the Galactic Center is a portal on even a higher level that we're connecting with. And of course, people can connect with different portals and create portals, but that might be helpful. That might be people might be interested in and might be related to what we're going to be doing here.
Beautiful. We are going to include the course on Arcturian portals, which again assists us in this whole process. Beautiful. Well, we are really looking forward to this again. We feel so good in these group experiences, and we invite everyone to join us. And together we amplify the light, and New Earth is here with this expression. New Earth is a frequency, and we are truly learning how to access it even more, to embody it and hold it in our world. Jean, any last comments?
Oh yeah. If people heard or maybe can re-listen to that piece of the transmission, or even probably any part of the recording, but the of the inner tones, I think they're becoming much more available, and I was hearing them a lot during the transmissions and more recently, and I think. So there's vibrations, which I also felt in the beginning, the first wave, like you mentioned, and then you can also see colors and lights or images, which many people might already be seeing, like as a type of clairvoyance. And then even a more subtle level of clairvoyance is the inner tones. And I think with these kind of galactic frequencies and energies, that becomes much more available, as well as the manifestation of beings, whether they're angelic beings or interdimensional beings or these galactic beings. They come in, they may come in if people are open to it through inner sound. And you could just like focus on your ears as if you're trying to listen for something, not in the physical world, but just as if like you're listening internally, and you may hear like a very high pitched or some kind of inner tone. So I just wanted to clue or key people into that if that's something they wanted to focus on.
Yes, very good. And we've talked also about the tones that we may hear that get our attention. That's
Yeah.
just as important too. Whereas you're saying close your eyes and tune into it that way. But then especially if out of nowhere we get the ear rings or the tones, that's something else to really stop and pay attention.
Yes, yes. A message from the spirit world.
Yes, and or your higher self. Wonderful. All right, well, thank you everyone for joining us, and thank you, Jean. This has been wonderful. We'll see you in the course.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, everyone.